Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Mr. Beasley. I do a lot of gaming streaming. I focus a lot on video games and Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm not really a big time content creator. What I'd like to do today, though, is talk to everyone about a movie that I saw recently that really impacted me. And if you're watching this, you already know what it was. Superman 2025, written and directed by James Gunn. This is kind of special for me. I'm a big comic book fan. I'm a big geek and nerd for things like that. I've been a fan of Superman and the comics from DC for a long time. I've always liked DC more. That doesn't mean I don't like Marvel. I just have a preference. But I saw the Amazon Prime early premiere on Tuesday, July 8th with my 5-year-old daughter, and we both had some thoughts that I wanted to get out. Time of recording, the only other review for the film I've seen is Roger Ebert's. Genuinely, I agree with a lot of the things that I saw in that review, but I had some different takes, so I wanted to share those here. And I think I probably liked it a little bit more. Yeah, I might be biased, but I think I liked it a little bit more than Roger Ebert did. So I got some notes here. Gonna go ahead and put these down on camera. I look forward to reading everybody's comments. I want to know if you've seen the movie, what you think. I want to know what you thought about specific parts, if there's a part that I didn't cover. This is going to be full of spoilers. This is going to be full of very specific plot points, and it's going to be full of character moments that you may not want to be spoiled on. So if you're wanting something completely spoiler free, maybe I'll edit this down to a more spoiler free version and put that one up and label it. But my intention was to wait till the end of the week. Today is Friday. People are going to watch the movie tonight. They watched it last night. They watched it Tuesday. They watched the Hollywood premiere. So people have seen the movie now. I feel comfortable putting out a spoiler full review. Just be advised that I'm going to talk about that. Now, if you like spoilers and you're wanting me to spill the details on the whole film beat by beat, start to finish, it's not going to happen. I'm not going at this in a chronological order, and I'm not coming at this from like a let's leak the plot type of point of view. We're just going to talk about my reaction to things. My goodness. So my 5-year-old girl, she is already a big DC fan. Her thing is the Titans. She loves Teen Titans. And 5 years old, she likes that silly stuff from like Teen Titans Go. But she cut her teeth on the OG Teen Titans cartoon that a lot of us my age remember from when we were younger. And so between those two things, that opened up this kind of connection for us where we're like, hey, we both like superheroes. What do you like? She's gotten into Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, the movies. She's a big fan. She's a really big fan of Batman. She's a really big fan of Robin. And she is a humongous fan on Crypto the Superdog. She's a little bit of a crypto expert. And when I saw the trailer for this film, I was hopefully optimistic. I liked James Gunn. I liked The Suicide Squad. I liked Peacemaker. He even did this short video series, really funny. I used to see it on YouTube. I think it's taken down now. I don't know if you find it anywhere. Maybe it had something to do with Spike TV. Don't quote me on that. But he used to do this thing called PG porn that was just funnier than hell. So I know he's a funny guy, and I know that he sort of has felt like one of the people in comic book movies to kind of have like that magic touch. And so hopefully optimistic is where I was, where a lot of people were. And we watched the trailer, and I remember when I heard Superman whistle, I got chills. I called my daughter in the room. I said, come and watch it. I didn't finish watching. I heard the whistle, paused, went back to the beginning. We were very near the beginning of the trailer. Brought her in. I said, look at this, look at this, look at this. And she sees Superman. She goes, oh my God, what's happened to him? And then she hears the whistle and she sees, you know, the dust moving, the snow moving. And she goes, Dad, is that Crypto? I said, I think it's Crypto. She says, Dad, is that Crypto? I said, I think it's Crypto. And when we saw Crypto, oh, our hearts escaped our chests, our spirits left our bodies. We were transported. We wanted to watch this movie. So we've been excited. I don't think I've been excited to see a movie in theater like this probably since Man of Steel. And I wish I could say I was that excited for The Flash. I wasn't. I wish I could say I was this excited for Green Lantern. I'm a bigger Green Lantern fan. I wasn't. This was, I mean, in a long time, I've never been this excited, probably, actually. I'm thinking back to my childhood now. I'll say this. I struggle to come up with another title that I've had more enthusiasm to go and see. So let's just start with my first impressions. Let me recount the event. The theater experience. We got the memorabilia popcorn tin. It's got Crypto on it in like a cartoon animated style on one side, and we have Crypto again on the other side. Love that. We settle into our seats after going through the line. For me, this is the second time I've been to the movie theater with my daughter. First time we went, she was 3. We watched The Last Wish, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Wonderful film, and she is a great audience member. As she should be. Her dad is a cinephile and stage performer, so I would hope that she has good manners like that. She's an excellent audience member. I had told her coming up to this, we're going to see it in IMAX. That means the screen is going to be bigger than you could possibly imagine. And I told her this the day of. I said, remember, we're going to get in there. The screen is going to be bigger than you can imagine right now. And we got in there. We found our seat. And she tugs on my sleeve. And she whispers to me, Dad, that screen is bigger than I ever imagined. And that alone made the night worth it, because as a dad, you fight for those times when you're right. It sets a good expectation up. So yeah, we'd seen the trailer. She's a big Crypto fan. She liked when Dwayne Johnson played Crypto recently. She likes a little bit of that older cartoon. She likes when he makes little cameo appearances and different things with Scooby-Doo. She's a big Scooby fan. So we like Crypto, and the opening scene mirrors that trailer. It's from the trailer, from the original trailer. You have Superman, bruised, bloodied, laying in the snow. Crypto comes and drags him off to the Fortress of Solitude. We're locked in. I loved, there is this like introductory text. It's like 3 or 4 very short, very easy to read sentences that put you exactly in the story. It felt like a page off the first page of a comic book. It felt like the first page of the comic book. I don't want to spoil what that text is, but I will condense it. We know what superpowered people are. We know what metahumans are. Superman's active, and he just got his butt kicked for the first time ever. Puts you right there. So that's the scene. We know what superpowers are. This is a world that knows Superman. This is his first ass whipping. And right off the bat, he's been around 3 years. And he has had his butt kicked because he has intervened in a foreign conflict. His intervention caused one of those powers, one of those, we'll call them nations at one of those nations to react. And they send someone called the Hammer of Boravia. Boravia is the fictional country that's involved. The other one is Jarhanpur, but Boravia sends off their own super dude in a big metal suit to beat the tar out of them. And that he does. But it sets this conflict up as political right away. Why did that guy come there? Why is he terrorizing Metropolis? Superman is active in America. Looks American, sounds American, active in Metropolis, not an official member of the government, not an agent of the government, not a military member, not an agent of the military. And he took unilateral action on foreign ground, on the border between two foreign countries that have nothing to do with him. And so this sets this up as a political backdrop for some tension here. You would be mistaken if you were to believe that it was a purely political conflict that our hero would have to face. Now, in his fortress, Superman has Superman robots. If you are a fan of the comics, if you're a fan of the animated series, Justice League JLU, and things like that, there have been Superman robots before. But I don't believe I've seen Superman robots in live action. I'd have to really search my memory. I don't think I've seen Superman robots in live action. We don't get to see the roboticist side of Kal-El or Clark Kent in this. It seems to be a hobby that he keeps specifically in his Fortress of Solitude, his man cave. We don't know why he made them, what the thought process was. All we know is he's got Superman robots. They're voiced by Alan Tudyk. They're endearing. They're funny. A little creepy at times. And it's one of those elements that James Gunn has pulled from other versions of Superman that we haven't seen in live action yet. And he's put it in the forefront. And that's a beautiful thing. So the robots help him get healed. The fortress has some DNA lock. We don't get the Dwarf Star key. I was kind of hoping for the Dwarf Star key, or at least this massively heavy giant key. There's something about the world's strongest man only using a key under a doormat for security that subverts the seriousness of it all in a fun way that can really only be backed up by Superman. The robots, though, they're in there. No, not the robot. What am I talking about? Crypto is in the Fortress of Solitude, and Clark remarks that he's not a very well-behaved dog. My daughter loved Crypto, loved pointing him out. He gets a great introduction. The only Crypto scene that didn't 100% hit for me, and what I mean is the CGI. Okay, he's a CGI dog. The only scene that didn't hit for me in the theater, there's one, it's in the trailers, where he's nipping at Soup's heels as he leaves the fortress. Something about it felt like it didn't sell. As I'm looking back on it, I can't determine from my memory if it's the timing, if it was the lighting, if it was something about the quality of the IMAX projection that, I don't know. But in all the other shots of this dog, he's stealing your heart, okay? Look forward to Crypto. If you're worried about Crypto being overused, he is used precisely the right amount. In every instance that has him, he furthers the plot. He serves a function. This isn't just there to sell toys. In fact, I know Crypto isn't there just to sell toys. because I've been trying to buy crypto toys for my dog, and I can't find any. I have found one little remote control helicopter thing that's crypto. I have found things from past super pet projects or, super dogs out there. I've found antique crypto toys with more ease than I have found crypto anything from this project. Give me crypto toys. Give me a crypto costume. Give me the collar. Give me the tag. And give me the cape. And I'm going to blow that money for my Dalmatian. He's moving now. He's deaf and he knows. He just knows I'm talking about him. I'm going to blow that money, though, because my 5-year-old daughter loves crypto. How am I going to not blow that money? Shut up and take my money. That kind of thing. I'll put that meme in there when I edit. So he gets a great introduction, and he's very spot on throughout the rest of it. Now, let's talk about David Corenswet. David Corenswet does not play Superman. He does not act like Superman in this film. David Corenswet is Superman. He fully disappears into the role of Clark Kent Kal-El Superman in a way that is so earnest and unbelievably complete. His Clark Kent is believably different. Posture, voice, presence, fashion. I like the glasses that they picked. More on that in a bit, but I like the glasses that they picked. When he lets the veil drop, like he's dressed as Clark Kent, but he's himself. He's not hiding who he is to Lois. Or with his parents, He's just among those people who know him for who he is in both worlds. When he's around those people, we see a version of Clark that feels very true, very resonant. And there is one line David delivers towards the end of the film. He says, "Hello, Miss Lane." Oh, my goodness. The way he delivers "Hello, Miss Lane" filled me, as a creative person, someone who's acted before, with an insane amount of jealousy. I read audiobooks. I do a little bit of voice acting. I do a little bit of voiceover work. And I can't deliver the line, "Hello, Miss Lane," the way that he did. It gave me chills. I can hear it in my head. A bass resonance that is very super. Pun intended. But it landed very hard with the audience. Everyone was excited when he said, "Hello, Miss Lane," near the end of the film. But we see David Corenswet's attempt in such a pure light. There is a brightness, a hopeful vigor brought to it. Cavill's Man of Steel was tortured and brooding and agonizing. He was a demigod that didn't fit. Dean Cain's Superman was like a charming rookie, right? Hecklin's fatherly Superman, very good but very different. Dadly, right? He's a leader. Superman is a leader, Hecklin's was. This Superman is still figuring things out, but he knows who he is. Like, his internal compass is really strong, and the real conflict of this film is when that internal compass gets shaken. He thinks he did the right thing by interfering, and Lois kind of gets him thinking that maybe he didn't. And he starts to wonder, like, are my convictions misplaced? But I mean, here's the truth. We're just talking acting, right? David Corenswet can't possibly rise to the legacy of George Reeves. And he can't ever hope to live up to the monument that is Christopher Reeve. Harder still for any actor, let alone a Superman actor, but harder still for David to come up with here is to really carve out a place in this mythos for himself. I think he's done that. I think you'll watch this movie and you'll agree. Corenswet has his own place in this mythos now. Man, I don't know anything else that he's in. I know that he's acted in other things. I remember the Twister project being mentioned a lot. I didn't watch the new Twisters. But his name's got to be household soon. If it's not already, it's got to be. It's really good. Words that came to mind as I was watching the movie. Iconic. His posture, his bearing, the silhouette he cuts. This isn't a Superman who's ripping off his shirt. This isn't a Superman who's ripping off his uniform. This isn't a Superman showing off all of that musculature. This is a Superman who, in silhouette though alone, you know who he is. Memorable. When I watch this, I'm not getting him confused for any other actor who's played this role. This is his performance. It's unique. Does that mean you're getting a Superman you've never seen before anywhere else? No. You're getting the Superman you know and love. You're getting all the things that make Superman Superman. And you're getting it in a way you didn't think you could get it. It carries weight. It carries weight. He has a gravitas to his boyish charm. That's what it, there's a weight to his lightness. That's a delicate touch. That's a delicate touch. And to see him in interviews promoting this film, that's not how I'd describe him. Clearly, he's a great person. Clearly, he's charming. Clearly, he's got a good heart. And he's a wholesome guy. Those things do come across in his performance. But he gives Superman a boyish naivete that is disarming without blunting him, without weakening him. You know he's naive, but he's still Superman. And my daughter, what did she think of David Corenswet? She thought he was so handsome. She spent part of the film just describing all the different rigs and machines and pulleys and different things, all the methods to the magic of flying in Hollywood. Now she's 5, but she's observant. She's curious. She's a complete. When it comes to like how it's made in movies, she wants to know. But it kept her completely dialed in, fully engaged in every sense. The only parts of the movie my 5-year-old little girl wasn't watching were the parts where people on TV are talking about the news or showing clips of the political, sort of plot. She was involved in the love triangle with Lex Luthor, Eve Teschmacher, and Jimmy Olsen. She was super involved in the office drama of the Daily Planet. She was keeping up with the nuances of the Justice Gang and their naming convention. She even caught on that Maxwell Lord was sponsoring them. And she said, well, if they're going to be the Justice League, they can't have a boss. I thought that was an interesting insight from a 5-year-old. Um, but for the supporting cast, as I kind of mentioned the Justice Gang, we have honestly even better performances. Now, I don't want to diminish David Corenswet's stellar landmark performance. It will be remembered as better than Routh's, as better than... I loved Routh. Love Routh still. It'll be remembered as better than Cavill's. There are some people that are going to think of Cavill's iconic outfit, pose, and jawline and think, that's my Superman. And I get it. The guy had the look. But my Superman has only ever been a tortured, brooding demigod in what-if alternate timelines. And for a movie, or a movie series, I expect that Superman to be a mainline Superman of some sort. And I expect certain things. We get that in this film, and part of that is built up by the supporting cast. So let's start with Nicholas Hoult. You loved him in The Great. You loved him as Renfield. His Lex Luthor is a revelation. Visually stunning. He has also... They did such a great job in this. This iconic silhouette, that upward angle that broadens his shoulders and emphasizes the egg shape of his big bald head. My daughter said that his bald head was big and beautiful and perfect for Luthor. He encapsulates Lex's signature cruelty. Now, his character has funny moments, and with the exception of one gag, I would say he's not a very funny character. He doesn't make jokes. He doesn't really quip. There's two big gags that he's involved in that I can think of on reflection. One where you get to see his pettiness as he knocks over a cup, and as soon as his assistants fix it, he knocks it over again. And there's another gag he's involved in with Crypto, where we get to see Crypto kind of rough him up a little bit. And both those gags play off really well, but their aversion or avoidance of giving Nicholas Hoult too many comedic moments allowed him to really become this despicably dastardly son of a gun. And you really want Superman to hurt him. Nicholas Hoult has carved out for himself, for me personally, room on my own Mount Rushmore of Lex Luthors. He might be the best one ever. He's certainly more compelling and comic accurate than Gene Hackman's, who charmed us and sits on that same Mount Rushmore for me. He is equally as sinister as Clancy Brown in the animated series and in the Justice League series as Lex Luthor. His voice, while not as deep, is still iconic. I liked Nicholas Hoult's Lex Luthor voice. It was punchable and frustrating and vexatious. I loved that in a villain. When it comes to, I think the other big famous Lex Luthor in my mind is Michael Rosenbaum. Michael Rosenbaum has an iconic look too. He shaved his head for a lot of years on that show. And they did okay in the bald cap later on. Those four, Hackman, Rosenbaum, Brown, and now Hoult, they're going to make real history with Hoult. Because he's right there at the tippy top. Maybe even better. Some words I wrote down when I thought of him. Smug. Unforgettable. Cemented. Like, the character's really nailed down hard, right? Moving on from Hoult, Wendell Pierce is Perry White. A lot of people have been avoiding talking about Wendell Pierce as Perry White. I think he was criminally underused. I think I actually saw Roger Ebert say something about that. If you use the phrase Roger criminally underused, I apologize. That's my own crypto back there. A super dog, my Dalmatian flashing behind my head. But Roger, if I had borrowed that phrasing, sorry. I think it's accurate. Wendell Pierce was criminally underused. He had that iconic, oversized, what do you call it? Cigar. His manner of speaking, his astute management of the office. This wasn't just a background character. There was depth there. And I'm not surprised. Since I saw the movie, I saw an interview with Wendell where he talks a little bit about some of the depth that he's given his character in that work. Really paid off. Really paid off. Big if true. But when we see Perry White in other media with Superman or with Clark or that gang, this is a guy who is not just plot motivation, but actual sometimes words of motivation. He's an unlikely source of wisdom because he has an aura perpetually of being out of touch, but he's a newsman, so he's not as out of touch as you think. He's just old or older. And he fills that role with a little bit of the comic relief, but in a way that left me wanting so much more. He's got the grit, the presence, the impatience laced with affection. He elevated every scene he was in, and if they let him play around a little more, I'm sure he could elevate it further. I'm glad they cut the film down as much as they did, but if there are some deleted scenes to find later, I hope that they include Wendell. That's not a fault of his performance if they cut any of him at all. Guarantee it, because it's just too good. I can't see that being the case. Eve Teschmacher, this time, she is part influencer, part love triangle drama catalyst. We get to see her in the background a lot with Lex, taking lots of photos, doing this, doing that, just kind of, I don't know, she spends like the first 2 acts of the film not really doing anything other than being like a gag on influencer girlfriends for the rich, which is like a trope, right? She's not just window dressing though, and she is a callback to the Donner era antics in some ways, but updated, right? Still morally flexible, still a social climber, but now instead of money hungry or attention hungry, she's just not that bright, and she's just trying to find her way. She's caught up between 2 men she loves, both of who treat her very badly. Those 2 men are Lex Luthor and Jimmy Olsen. Now, Skyler Gisondo is James Olsen. I'm going to talk about more here in a little bit. But to finish my notes on her, she knows that she's playing a part. She realizes she has something to offer to the plot, like in character, and she relishes that and leverages that in a fun way later on. That comes back to bite her in the butt a little bit, but what a great performance. And I'll edit in her name because I did forget her name. Jimmy Olsen, though, Skyler Gisondo's Jimmy Olsen, very funny, very sexy, but still perfectly dorky. I loved his costumes. Costuming, nailed it all the way around. There's a charm to Skyler's performance that gives him this effortless kind of vibe. The role feels lived in. It doesn't feel like he showed up to be Jimmy Olsen one day on the set. I kind of hope they do a Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen TV series on HBO. His performance was that commanding. I want to get Wendell Pearson on that. I want to get Beck Bennett in on that. Who was it that played Cat Grant? Oh, man, what's her name? Gonna edit her name in as well. Let's get Beck Bennett. Let's get Steve Lombard and Cat Grant in that series, too. His youthful chaos and sincerity plays beautifully against Lois's edge and Clark's gentleness. His comic relief is appreciated when it's needed, but he's a genuine emotional anchor when you least expect it, a plot device when you want it to happen, and absolutely integral to the story. I found myself thinking, like, this is Superman's pal. This is Jimmy Olsen. Let's get him that watch. Let's get him, I don't want a series where he's having Superman get him out of trouble. Maybe a couple cameos would be great, but I'd love to have a series of him getting into trouble. That would be so cool. I would absolutely watch the hell out of that. HBO, send me a check in the mail. If you do a Jimmy Olsen show, send me a check in the mail. I don't even have to be involved. If you want me involved, involve me. Just send me a check in the mail. Or a new TV. What I wrote down in my notes about Jimmy Olsen and Perry. Jimmy Olsen and Perry, Skyler, Gisondo, and Wendell Pierce. It's not chemistry, it's alchemy. Something magical is happening. Get them together again. Get them together again as these characters. Now, Anthony Carrigan's Metamorpho is an absolute triumph. Anthony Carrigan has real range, dude. The guy's got crazy chops. I saw him as Victor Zsasz in Gotham, and then again as NoHo Hank in Barry. NoHo Hank. Rex Mason is not either of those characters. Metamorpho. That's not what he's doing here. This is a role that he has literally, with the makeup and prosthetics, fully disappeared into, but with this performance. He brought emotional nuance, physical presence. This is a character that could have been a gimmick. This is a character that could have just been a way to show off technical achievements. This is a character that nobody was asking for. I'm a Metamorpho fan. I wasn't asking for Rex Mason in live action. I want to see him in more things. I don't know how he'll look even with an HBO budget, but like, could you do it? Would you do it? I'd watch it just for Anthony Carrigan alone. His Rex Mason is an origin story, and he's not a sideshow. This is a deeply wounded man at a low point in his life, being forced to do something that he doesn't believe in. He had soul to a moment full of absurdities. I mean, you're literally... Superman is in a pocket dimension prison of Lex Luthor's next to his ex-girlfriend. Lex's ex. And Carrigan is moved by the death of an important but minor character in a way that made me tear up. Now, a lot of that has to do with the smaller character's performance. But I wanted to cry right alongside Anthony. And that says a lot for his skill as an actor. You got to give Nathan Fillion and his guy Gardner their own spotlight. You got to. Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner is... What if you told a man his power was limited by his imagination, and he took that literally, and he wasn't smart enough to realize you were speaking figuratively? But he actually has a Green Lantern ring. And so he really is one of the most powerful people in the universe. Guy Gardner is a character I never wanted to see in live action either. But unlike Metamorpho, where I wasn't asking for it, I was actively asking them never to do Guy Gardner. Maybe in the Lanterns TV show they could have done it. I was thinking, nah, don't do this here. When I heard Nathan Fillion was going to be Guy Gardner, I was pissed. I was mad. I'm a Green Lantern fan. Nathan Fillion is my Hal Jordan. You understand? Seeing him as Guy Gardner in the trailers and promo material, it was like watching someone put Michael Jordan on towel duty. I thought, you've got someone who knows the franchise, who knows the characters, who knows the lore, who's been around it for decades. The fans love for this part. The fans want to do this. And you made him Guy Gardner? What were you thinking? I was wrong. I was flat wrong. I started to grow on some of the newer promos before it came out, but seeing the movie itself, how do you give a smart aleck loudmouth who is a superficial jerk depth? Ask Nathan Fillion. I mean, he knows the lore. He knows these characters deeply. And it shows. There's a moment where he steps nose to nose with Superman. And in Nathan's performance, you can see that even though Superman is one of the most powerful beings on the planet, in the universe, if not the most powerful, Guy Gardner's confidence eclipses his. And it has you wondering what else he knows. He's got this cool confidence of someone who knows more than you. Like he can afford to be flippant and rude because he knows more than you. And I think he does. I mean, I saw an interview where Nathan says, hey, like, I don't think Guy could take Superman. And you know, a Superman who really lets loose can definitely handle a Green Lantern. But they've shown in the comics time and time again that a thin green line from those rings is all you need to put them down. I mean, they got the power, right? The Green Lantern ring as a device is one of the most powerful artifacts in the universe. Guy Gardner knows it. So his confidence isn't unearned. Is it unwise? Maybe. Superman's hella strong. This Superman does appear to be weaker than other Supermen we've seen in movies, whether that's due to experience or just due to the juxtapositioning of him being paired up against Ultraman and what do you call it? The Engineer. Sorry, Gabby, I forgot about you. The Engineer. You love to hate Guy Gardner, and you love to love Nathan Fillion. They won me over as a tag team together. Nate and Guy high-fiving. They're winning me over. I was sold completely. Not only was Nathan the right choice, which I didn't need selling on, but Guy was the right character. Edi Gathegi's Mr. Terrific steals the show. Now, he stands out for an entirely different reason, or reasons. His performance is grounded and cerebral. Endlessly watchable. It reminded me of the cool, understated Mr. Terrific we occasionally glimpsed in the JLU. Eddie's voice for him fits what I got in my head for him from the comics perfectly. I mean, you hear Eddie in interviews, it doesn't sound like him in the movie. It's good. There's a quiet intensity. I mean, he blinks slowly. His voice, his timbre, it's controlled. It's measured. He doesn't ever feel out of his depth or underprepared. Totally calm and in control. Seasoned and practiced. This is a Mr. Terrific who's been active for a while. Every word he speaks is carefully measured. This is a man who has calculated every probability. You know what I mean? Like, he had that kind of assuredness. Oh, one of the most iconic lines in the film. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone else talking about it. But Eddie delivers the line, "I don't need your help. I'm the goddamn Mr. Terrific." And it sent the audience home in body bags. We died laughing. It was amazing. And perfect for the tone of the moment. What a great line. Gathegi doesn't just say it. He makes you believe it, too. And he walks the walk the whole movie before and after the line. So, this Mr. Terrific, not in a lot of conflict here. He is there to make technology do magic, and he does it. I would follow him to another film or his own series or his own film. Eddie's got the star power. Every cast member could hold up a property by themselves. Maybe not a movie. Maybe a short. Maybe, come on, HBO. It's great. But the final member of the Justice Gang is Isabella Merced's Hawkgirl. She's not just fierce. When I think of Hawkgirl, I think of fierce, predatory, birds of prey, maybe even vicious. I expect battle cries and yells. I expect weapons flying through the air. She delivers. She absolutely delivers. But she's not just performing this character. She's genuinely intimidating. She isn't, 10 feet tall and fart and fire like some of these DC characters are. She's a small girl. She's not a small hero. She's a big one. She is a big hero. She owns the wings. There's mystery to her character. I think of the three members of the Justice Gang, she has the least amount of action and dialogue. So there's more mystery to her, which I hope pays off later. Oh my goodness. Okay, I gotta get back to talking about the falafel vendor. Molly, if I heard his name correctly, Mali. It sounded like Malik without the hard at the end. Um, this might be the most heartfelt performance of the entire film. I did extensive research on this. Because the actor isn't credited on IMDb, not that I could see. Um, I found the casting call sheet for it. Named the character something different, like Manasa or something like that. But he has this line, and I'm not quoting it directly, but it's along the lines or in the vein of he's saying this to Superman while Lex Luthor's pointing a gun at his head. He says, Superman, the greatest achievement of my life is when you ate my falafel. I don't have any family. I don't have any friends. No one is going to miss me. In this moment, this character only had a couple quick lines earlier in the film. Isn't thinking of himself. He isn't thinking of his own safety. He isn't asking Lex to release him or let him go or to show mercy. He doesn't beg Superman to save him. He doesn't call out for his gods. The falafel vendor tries to reassure Superman that it's okay. It's okay, Superman. It's okay. I've already had the high point of my life. And the pain from losing me will be minimal. The impact on the community will be minimal. It'll be okay. This is the performance that prompts Anthony Carrigan's Metamorpho to cry and release Superman. This sends the action rising to the climax. This performance by an unnamed actor is the beating heart of the movie. It is the soul of Superman on display. Whoever this actor is, if anyone knows, comment, let me know. Their praise needs to be sung, and they should perform in more work because of this. This was the second point in the film that I almost teared up. Because, it leads right into Anthony's crying. I'd mentioned that before. And that represents the second. There's one earlier. It's so good. His performance is so heartfelt. You can hear the stress and fear in his voice. 100% believes he's going to die. He just wants... Just be okay, Superman. Because if you're okay, you can save the day again someday. But if you're not okay, you can't. That's a big message. One that anyone who's trying to help others has to learn at some point. That you can't save everybody. And that it will be okay. But to get that lesson from the person you can't save is so confoundingly traumatic. The character is rewarded with a front page feature article at the end of the film. No words are mentioned about him, but you can read on the screen that Molly, the falafel vendor, is the real hero of the day, who motivated Metamorpho and who saved Superman, ultimately. It is what reminds us and Superman that those moments matter, that every person matters. I hope we learn who played this character, and I hope I got the name of the character correct, because we need to find out. So let's talk filmmaking. Let's talk cinema. color palette, the lighting, the cinematography, the framing, the storytelling, the editing. Visually gorgeous. The flying sequences to the Fortress of Solitude, to the CGI baby, Metamorpho's son Joey. It's all strong. Especially after the Flash's infamous Uncanny Valley baby scene. This felt like redemption. We have a weird little green monster baby, and it's way more charming and endearing and whatever have you than whatever the abominations we got in the Flash movie were. When you use CGI for a full replacement, one of the issues you run into is it separates the emotional attachment the audience has to the characters. They just did a better job this time. You know, I actually don't know if it's the same team. When I say they, I just mean Hollywood, DC, right? We got CGI baby that is adorable and I care about. We have CGI animal that's adorable and I care about. That's good. Yeah, I mean, even though he was clearly CGI, this didn't feel like the first couple, those live action Scooby-Doos. Although, those actually hold up better than you might think. Go and rewatch those. I rewatched those recently. The music. Chef's kiss. I'll be picking up the soundtrack and giving that more of a listen. I might give it its own review. Let me know in the comments if you want me to give that a review. John Williams gets a nod in some of the music. So the Fleischer shorts get a little bit of a nod in some of the music. The whistle Superman uses for Krypto is some of the best sound design I've heard in a film, bar none. Bar none. Every time he whistled for that dog, everyone cheered. When he whistled and the dog came, everyone cheered. When he whistled and the dog didn't come, we felt that palpable disappointment together. And I think that's what I really enjoyed about the experience, was the togetherness of this. I was cheering and clapping and whooping with my daughter and with moviegoers. I haven't had an experience like that in decades. I haven't been in an audience for a movie that had people clapping since Inglourious Bastards. That movie got a standing ovation when I was there. So yes, this movie has political themes. Some people have called it woke. What I've read is that this calling of it being woke has to do with two big points. The first being that they changed Superman's motto from truth, justice, and the American way to truth, justice, and a new tomorrow. The other reason I've heard that it's being called woke, or too woke, over woke, if you will, is simply that the military conflict in the film too closely resonates with the conflict in Palestine, or too closely resonates with the conflict in Ukraine. But there are problems with this criticism after watching the movie, and even without. First, let's be honest. When someone throws that word, or the word woke, around in a negative sense, they're not really telling us any information about what they're describing. What they're actually revealing is far more about their own worldview than about the target of their ire. Superman has always punched up. Yes, he's stronger than every human. We're not talking about him just punching things that are stronger than him. No. He has always punched up against those that the common man, the common person, is powerless to defend themselves against. Since his inception, his enemies have been war profiteers, tyrants, bigots and racists, fascists, even quite literally the Ku Klux Klan has been Superman's enemy. This is a man who was created by the Jewish kids of immigrants. He is an alien to this world. An immigrant who, through his uniqueness, through the lens of his background, has found a home with his adopted people and wants to make it better. When Superman stood for truth, justice, and the American way, that American way was the way of the Statue of Liberty, of sending us, your huddled masses. He's a man whose real power and real strength has always been how he could stand against oppression with strength and compassion without giving in to base instincts. There's a stoicism to Superman. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe it's not the film or the character or the production company that's the problem. Maybe it's that you've never understood Superman or justice or decency. And maybe, just maybe, you should ask yourself, why does empathy trigger your outrage? At the heart of the movie is this: Superman tries to do the right thing. He doesn't always succeed. There are people with differing views and logic and reasoning than his. So he owns up to it. And he learns. And he keeps trying. That's his moral center. That's his moral compass. That's what makes him Superman. He doesn't moralize and theorize and prescribe for us how to behave or how to act. He tries to lead by setting a good example. When the Superman of this movie intervened in that conflict, it wasn't to impose his will. And when it's pointed out to him that that's what he did, he sincerely regrets his action. At least insofar as that. So he takes ownership of that. He learns to rely on others and their input and to talk these things out. To trust, to communicate, and to share emotional weight. That's where characters like Lois Lane, the Justice Gang, and his adoptive parents are really shining in this film. They're a bouncing partner who can take those ideas and just run them back and forth with them. This is a movie about choosing to care when it's hard. It's about defining who you are by your principles and not where you come from. It's about choosing for yourself who you will be and not letting others choose for you. This isn't a movie that's meant to make you think anyone in real life is evil. This isn't a movie where Superman is telling you war is bad and governments can't be trusted. This is a movie where we get to see Superman's humanity, his personhood. We get to see that he is strong, he is durable, he is clever, and he is fallible. But he's still the hero. Just like all of us can be the hero still. I'm glad that this is going to end up being my first long-form video that I put out on here. I want to do more Superman content. I'm really interested in doing a review of Dean Cain's Superman run in particular. And I hope that you'll join me for those. In the comments below, let me know if you liked the movie. Let me know if you agreed with my analysis. Let me know where I got it wrong. Let me know what you really think. If you think the movie was over woke, go to the comments. I'm not going to block you or shut you down just because you disagree. I think that there is some analysis for this film that might put it in a negative light that is worth mentioning. The film isn't free of plot holes. The film missteps maybe 2 major times that I can think of. And I think after I get a chance to see it again, probably after it comes to streaming or home video, I might do a review focused on what they could fix. But I am interested in your input. Other people see things differently than I do. And your perspective can only serve to broaden my own. Please share it. My name's Mr. Beasley. I'm a dad. I'm a geek. I'm just a regular guy. This has been my review of Superman. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.